You are looking at a phone case that costs over $100, and somehow the price tag is the least offensive thing about it. When the latest batch of BTS tour merch dropped, the fandom was ready to open their wallets like they always do, but the excitement barely lasted a few seconds before the timeline completely derailed. Slapped right across this officially licensed lightstick phone case was a phrase that made people do a double take. There is not a bomb, right? Read that again. In the middle of a global climate where images of actual bombings are circulating daily, where people are actively grieving horrific violence, someone at some stage of production looked at those words and thought, yeah, that works. It felt like a punch to the gut, not because it was edgy or provocative, but because it was so profoundly tone-deaf that it almost felt impossible for a brand of BTS's size to let it slip through. The immediate reaction online was a mix of pure disbelief and boiling anger. Fans couldn't believe what they were seeing. At first, there was this brief, desperate attempt by some to rationalize it, with people mumbling about irony or translation quirks, but that defense crumbled the second you actually looked at the context. There is no irony to be found in a joke about bombs when real lives are being lost. One comment that quickly went viral summed up the feeling perfectly, stating that BTS making insensitive merchandise like this is absolutely disgusting. And that was just scratching the surface, because once the initial shock of the wording wore off, the digging started. That is always when things get really ugly for a K-pop agency. Rumors began to swirl almost immediately regarding the actual design of the case itself. Fans who know the group's aesthetic inside and out started pointing out that the graphics looked strangely generic, leading to a loud, persistent theory that artificial intelligence was used to create the design. In a fandom that prides itself on the members' personal involvement and the deeply intentional art direction of their products, the idea that a machine just spat out a lazy, controversial graphic to be sold at a premium price felt like a massive insult. It wasn't just about a bad phrase anymore. It was the creeping realization that the collaboration might lack any actual human touch from the artists they love. But the design and the phrase were only the appetizers in this entire mess. The main course was the company BTS chose to partner with for this merch drop. It did not take long for fans to trace the collaboration back to a brand called Urban Sophistication. A quick search revealed that this is an Israeli company. Suddenly, the controversy mutated from a poorly judged graphic design into a full-blown geopolitical nightmare. For months, fans have been incredibly vocal about the ongoing violence in Palestine, pushing for boycotts of brands tied to Israel and demanding that the celebrities they support do the same. So when BTS, a group that has literally stood at the United Nations giving speeches about youth empowerment and self-love, drops a $100 phone case made by an Israeli company with a bomb joke on it, the hypocrisy was just too loud to ignore. The frustration wasn't just about a piece of plastic anymore. It was about what this partnership implicitly endorses. Netizens speculated endlessly about how this could have possibly happened. Did Hybe, their agency, do any background checks? Did nobody in the merch division look at the global news even once over the past year? The silence from the company was deafening, and in that silence, the fandom completely fractured. This is where the situation stopped being just about BTS and started being a painful mirror held up to K-pop fan culture itself. A user posted a comment that cut straight to the bone, writing that they wish this fandom was as vocal about human rights issues as they are about the group's chart achievements and streaming records. That sentence sparked a massive, ugly divide. On one side, you had fans demanding accountability, saying that blindly consuming everything with a BTS logo on it while ignoring the ethical implications makes them complicit. On the other side, you had the hardcore defenders, the ones who treat any criticism of the group or their agency as a personal attack, frantically typing that people are overreacting and dragging the members into something they probably didn't even control. But here is the uncomfortable truth about being a global superstar in 2024. You don't get to take the money and ignore the message. When you put your name on a product, you own that product. If BTS weren't directly involved in choosing Urban Sophistication or approving the phrase on that phone case, that is arguably worse. It means their name is being used as a cash grab by a corporate machine that is completely disconnected from the real world. You cannot spend years building an image as socially conscious, thoughtful artists and then hide behind "we didn't know" when you get caught selling a $100 case that insults the intelligence and morality of your fan base. The expectation is there because the group set that standard themselves, and watching them fail to meet it is exhausting. What made this situation spiral even further out of control was that the backlash didn't stay confined to international Twitter or TikTok. Usually, when international fans raise political or ethical concerns, Korean fandom spaces tend to brush it off as overzealous Western internet culture. Not this time. When the news hit Korean community forums like the Ku and Pan, the reactions were shockingly brutal. Korean netizens, who are usually the first to defend the group's legacy, were openly asking why on earth an Israeli company was chosen out of all the options available. The comments were ruthless. One top-rated comment simply stated that this doesn't feel like a harmless decision at all, while another went straight for the throat, writing that the company has decided to self-destruct. When the domestic audience, the very core that props up an idol's entire career, starts using language like self-destruct over a merch drop, you know the agency has severely miscalculated the damage. This whole ordeal exposes the dark underbelly of K-pop merchandising. We already know that tour merchandise is essentially a massive cash cow designed to extract as much money from fans as possible, often marking up cheap materials by thousands of %. But we usually accept it because buying the light stick or the oversized hoodie is part of the communal experience of being a fan. Urban sophistication took that unspoken rule and stretched it past the breaking point. $100 for a single phone case is egregious on its own, but packaging it with a design that feels AI-generated, a phrase that mocks violence, and the backing of a company tied to a deeply controversial state feels less like a business move and more like a test to see just how much fans will tolerate. The emotional fatigue in the fandom right now is palpable. People are tired of having to do the ethical homework that a multi-million-dollar corporation should be doing in the first place. Fans shouldn't have to play detective, tracing supply chains and digging into the political associations of a phone case brand just to feel good about supporting their favorite artists. Yet here we are. The lack of a statement from HYBE only makes the anxiety worse. In the vacuum of official information, rumors run wild and resentment builds. Every hour that passes without a cancellation of the partnership or an explanation feels like an admission of guilt, or worse, absolute indifference. Looking at the broader picture, this controversy is going to leave a stain. It is not the kind of scandal that breaks a group financially, because BTS is too massive for that, but it permanently chips away at the trust they have built. There is a very specific kind of disappointment that comes from seeing an entity you admire stumble so badly on a basic moral test. The fans who are walking away from this purchase, the ones holding up the Free Palestine signs outside concerts, the ones refusing to let this be swept under the rug by a coordinated streaming party, they are the ones actually honoring the spirit of what BTS used to preach. You can't separate the art from the machine anymore. The machine chose urban sophistication. The machine approved there is not a bomb right. And now the machine has to sit there and watch as the very fans it tried to squeeze money from turn the merch drop into a global PR disaster. Free Palestine.